Okay, this video is looking at the Olympic and Paralympic movement. I think it's really useful for us to start with looking at kind of like a brief history of the Olympics and the Paralympics, and then kind of go from there. So, in terms of that brief history, there was ancient games which were first held in 776 BC. So we're in 2020 AD, so BC is like 0, and they ran until 394 AD, which you're talking about sort of 700 years, something around about that. So a long time. The Olympics we have now have only been going for a little over 100 years, so ours is quite recent as a tradition in comparison to this. And kind of in this period, it drew people from thousands of miles away, and they came to watch racing, combat sports, jumping, throwing, and they were held in Olympia in Greece. And then we've got our modern games now. So they first took place in 1896 in Athens, so in Greece, so not far, and close to the original home. And they were strongly influenced by two games, festivals that took place in the UK, the Cotswold Games, which took place in Gloucester, and the Much Wenlock Games. And they really influenced de Coubertin, who is the founder of the modern Olympic Games. Because de Coubertin met Penny Brooks. He met him in the 1890s, so not long before he started the modern Olympic Games. And Penny Brooks was the founder of the Wenlock Games. So he showed de Coubertin these, and it helped give him the kind of idea of what he was going to do and what he wanted to do in the modern Olympic Games. The Cotswold Games, actually they call it the Olympics, but it's spelt with a K rather than a C. But that's a multi-event festival, much like the modern Olympic Games. We can see the pictures in the top corner up there. And then if we look quickly at the Paralympics started in 1948, not long after the Second World War, and it was mainly there for war veterans. There was a hospital in Stoke Mandeville Hospital, which was for war veterans, and they put on a bit of almost like a sports day for war veterans, and that helped to give the idea that the Paralympics could be something that could happen from across the globe. It's much like what we do with the Invictus Games nowadays, which we can see there, which is being founded by Prince Harry. So if we look at the logos there, the Paralympic logo on the left-hand side, the red, blue and green, they are the three most popular colours on flags of countries around the world. And then you've got the Olympic rings on the right-hand side there, and they're supposed to represent unity between the different continents of the world and the different nations of the world. And including the white background, every single flag in the world has one of those colours on it. And then we're going to look at the Olympic Creed. So the Olympic Creed was put in place, was written by Pierre de Coubertin, Baron Pierre de Coubertin, this French aristocrat who was the founder of the modern Olympic Games. And the Olympic Creed, the most important thing is not to win, but to take part. Just as the most important thing in life is not the triumph, but the struggle. The essential thing is not to have conquered, but to have fought well. If we look at it, it sounds great, but we need to remember this was 1896, a very different world to what we live in now. We start with the most important thing is not to win, but take part. We really have that concept nowadays. It's the taking part that counts, we hear quite often. But it wasn't that way in the 1890s. And the next bit, not the triumph, but the struggle. That's kind of like basically never give up. But the problem is the world was really different then. It was really divided. It was a really horribly poor place. All of us, every single one of us, would have been desperately poor in the 1890s. So this only really related to some very privileged people at the time. So although it is quite an enduring message that has lived, we can see that now, we go, that makes sense. But actually at the time, it seemed to be for the richer part of society rather than maybe the everyday man or woman. And then finally, just to look at the values of the Olympic and Paralympic values. These are pretty much classed as the Olympic values, but they also class for the Paralympics as well. So equality, and that's talking about that equality to the world. And we can have discussions about whether we agree with that or not, but that's one of the values. Respect for your fellow competitors, the officials, the rules, all of that. Excellence, so that pushing, striving to be the best. Friendship, so competitors come together, the nations come together, spectators come together. That's why we have the Olympic Village where they all live together. That's the idea of that. Courage, that's that idea of fighting well and to be brave. Determination to give your best. And then inspiration, that's creating role models and to develop participation. All of the Olympics, when you apply to host the Olympics, you have to talk about your legacy and what you're going to do to improve participation. So you have to show that before you can be awarded the Olympic Games.